And welcome into Shooting the Breeze. My name is Tim Mulhelpt, and as always, I'm joined by Samir Kumar. And we're coming at you today with a bit of a different tone. When last we spoke, we talked about the Super Bowl, talked about a couple of different sports icons. And unfortunately, we'll be talking about a sports icon today, but in a different frame, as we, of course, just about 2 weeks ago lost Kobe Bryant tragically, along with eight others, including his daughter Gianna. And at the end of the day, Samir, you and I kind of reacted to this live, and it was just rough to kind of comprehend at first when it first came through the newswire. Didn't really know if it was something to be believed, but at the end of the day, Samir, unfortunately, this was the truth. We obviously now have had about a week and almost 2 weeks to reflect on this, but I want to get your thoughts and what your reaction was when you first heard the news of this tragedy.
Well, it was sad, Tim. First of all, just I got the news from just Twitter and seeing that Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash, and my initial reaction was this has got to be a hoax. Like I was thinking this can't be true because LeBron James just passed him on the all-time scoring list the
Mm-hmm.
night before. Kobe Bryant told him congratulations and keep moving the game forward. So that was a happy moment in the basketball world. But then it just made no sense to me seeing that not even 24 hours after reports of him dying in a helicopter crash. It was TMZ, so it
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit hard to believe at first. I thought maybe they might have gotten the wrong information or it's a hoax, but Adrian Wojnarowski confirmed that it was true, and everybody just started reacting on Twitter like out of shock, including me. It felt way too soon to be saying R.I.P. Kobe Bryant. I just did not think I'd be saying this so soon in my life, and
Well, Samir, I mean, and just to your point there, as far as is that level of shock, I don't know about you, and I know there have been tragedies, and there have been, there's tragedies every day, but there have been celebrities that have suddenly passed unexpectedly, and it's been shocking. But I don't know that there's ever been one like this in our lifetime, and we're very close in age. That is quite this dramatically stunning for the wrong reasons. And I don't know about you, but for me, this outweighs Michael Jackson, Prince, because that they were a little bit older, but also there was other factors in their life that contributed to that. But I don't know about you. I mean, what did have? Is there anything like this period in your life that you've experienced as far as a public figure?
absolutely not. I mean, I would say Robin Williams definitely was
Right.
kind of important because that brought to light how big of an issue mental health can be in this
Mm-hmm.
country sometimes. No matter how rich or famous you are, or happy you may seem on the surface of things, there are always problems that go on behind the scenes, and it just became too much for him, I think. And he was a little bit older at the time. I think there were some drugs that he might have been on. I can't fully remember everything that went on about that, but that was a little bit shocking. But I think this takes the just everything, the shock. It was completely 100% not his fault, and him being only 41 years old just made it seem unreal. Like there's just no way of justifying his death, in my opinion. And also, just seeing the reports on that same day that all four of his daughters were in that helicopter crash with him, that was just irresponsible reporting, man. I just thought, before like before you know something, you gotta check and you gotta make sure that it's 100% factual before you go out and report something so irresponsible like that, Tim. I just thought
Mm-hmm.
that was irresponsible as well, and just overall, I like you said before, this definitely came across more of a shock to us than any other celebrity death in our lifetime.
Well, and I think, at the same token, what adds another level to this beyond just Kobe, it would have been bad enough had it just been Kobe, but the fact that there were multiple children on the plane, including Gigi, his daughter, along with some of her teammates, they're heading to a travel basketball game. Uh, just it adds another entire level to this that is just it just takes this to a horrifying level that no one ever wanted it to be at. And again, it's not that there isn't tragedy every day, but this is somebody who's supposed to be not just Kobe, but everyone on that helicopter. It's supposed to be they're supposed to be invincible. Essentially, they have all the the things afforded to them that comes with fame and great wealth. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying, these, when we think of these celebrities, and you don't think about athletes in particular unless there's stuff building up to it, like you've seen some tragedies, and you've seen some athletes who have died way too young, and we've also seen athletes who were taken in crashes and sudden things like that, like Roy Halladay, for instance, way before our time, Roberto Clemente, Thurman Munson. There's a long list, but just the way this was so much more than just an athlete, because in a lot of those instances, it was just that athlete, that celebrity, people we know who are physically, even if they get hurt, they're just the elite of elite in terms of how they take care of themselves, how they can take care of their families with all the resources that they've earned. None of this is ever supposed to happen, and you don't ever think of it happening. And I think that's why it's partly why it's so surreal, is that this is just so against what you think. Because yes, again, we've seen athletes die young. We don't usually see them die with their families. I mean, Jose Fernandez had his friends, but it was, unfortunately revealed in the toxicology and autopsies that drugs may have played a role in that, in terms of their boating accident several years ago. All of these things usually have a cause. And like you said, with this helicopter crash, Kobe wasn't doing anything wrong. I know they've been doing some investigating, and I haven't heard anything determined as far as the smoking gun, so to speak, other than the fog and the weather that day, and that they had gotten approval to fly through it. So at the end of the day, this is one of those things that it wouldn't have made sense anyway, but there's no rationalizing this. There's no rationalizing this, because this is the equivalent of, say, like in Greek mythology, like having someone who is a Hercules type just be killed, and just so suddenly, because we put these people, even though they are still human beings, on such we think of them in such a different way. We think they're larger than life. In a lot of ways they are, but when it comes to mortality, obviously they're not. And it's just so shocking and so horrifying that this happened, and not just for Kobe, not just for his daughter. And I don't mean to say that in a way that's trying to trivialize anything, but also for the 7 others that were on that helicopter, who necessarily weren't the same level as Kobe, but were all young and not old enough to be considered anywhere near their time, so to speak. So, Samir, I think for me, that's kind of what is still so hard to process about this. And like I said, we're about 2 weeks out from this tragedy having occurred. Additionally, the way the news broke on Twitter, there was some irresponsible reporting, as you mentioned, some incorrect reporting too early. The fact that it was a helicopter crash, the fact that it was TMZ initially breaking some stories, all of that seems so sensationalized that none of it could be true. And then, unfortunately, of course, it was. But moving forward, kind of processing through that, what has helped, I think, everybody is reflecting on Kobe Bryant's legacy as a player. Because obviously in the event of tragedy, there's always a period of grief, a period of shock, of just mourning. But then there's also reflection, and positive reflection, remembering the good things about the person lost in tragedy, or in this case, the people lost in tragedy, but specifically Kobe. I mean, Samir, you're probably the biggest basketball fan I've ever met. I was not growing up, but even I knew who Kobe was. From a very young age. I think it was Michael Jordan was the first name I knew in basketball, and Kobe was probably the second. So for you, who's someone who maybe not a Lakers fan, of course, but someone who grew up watching basketball religiously, what do you think the legacy of Kobe Bryant as a basketball player will be, having given all the circumstances of the last couple of weeks?
Well, everybody remembers Kobe Bryant as somebody that always worked hard. He was willing to put in the extra work that a lot of other players weren't willing to put in. I saw a story recently about Kobe Bryant saying to his teammates, all right, let's go to the bar tonight. This was on a back-to-back. So It was on the road too. He was like, let's go to the bar tonight. Let's go get drinks and whatever. And he went out with them. He was like, let's just do it. Let's have fun. And then at 5 a.m., he started knocking on the doors and saying, all right, let's I hung out with you. Now you come hang out with me. He was like, put up some shots. Let's go get some work in at 5 a.m. So, obviously they obliged. They went out to the gym with Kobe and, got their work in. And then they had a game to play that night. So by the end of the night, they're all just worked. They're all just dead because they they got up at 5 a.m. to practice after a night of drinking and had a game to play later that night. So Kobe sent them the message that if you want to be great, you got to sometimes just give that sacrifice going out to the bars and whatnot. You got to sacrifice, the life of a normal human being if you want to be a champion. So that occurred during the time where the Lakers are kind of a lesser team in between their two title runs. That's just one small nugget of what defined Kobe Bryant as one of the most hardworking men the game of basketball has ever seen. On the surface of things, he might not have been a top 10 player of all time, just like by talent alone. But he went out and he sought advice from Hall of Famers that came before him, such as Hakeem Olajuwon, and practiced his footwork and other post moves that Hakeem had in his arsenal in order to become a better scorer and more multidimensional. He wasn't your average shooting guard that would hang out behind the three-point line and hoist three-point shots every night or try to flop and get fouls. No, he would take it into the rim. He would try to slam it on each and every defender that came at him or go up in the air for an acrobatic layup. He had all that given to him, but he also had the fundamentals of the game down. He had the footwork to be able to fake out defenders. He had the fadeaway moves. He had just the angles of each and every spot on the court for him to get a shot up, and he just knew how to read the defender that was on him. Bigger defenders, you knew that he just had to pivot one way and then fake one way, and then the bigger defender would know, oh no, like he's going this way. But Kobe would find that little bit of space and be able to get that jump shot up and find a hole to the basket and just get the ball in the basket in many other ways than just an average shooting guard. That's just another thing that kind of defined Kobe Bryant, his willingness to seek out other skills and not make excuses for his lack of size to be able to get his buckets in the paint.
Is there one Kobe memory that stands out to you more than any other? Specific Kobe moment on the court that stands out to you more than any other?
Well, I gotta say, when this came towards the end of his career, it was the 2012-2013 season. Gerald Wallace and Chris Humphries both came into the paint together and tried to stop Kobe's drive, but Kobe just slammed it, posterized both of them. Kobe just looked, the shot clock was winding down. Kobe looked like he was out of options, but he saw that little sliver of space to get in, and he just threw it on Gerald Wallace and Chris Humphries. And you know what? Yeah, I'm a Nets fan, but I didn't care because those two players were whack. They made them money. There's a reason why the Nets traded both of them in a deal to get a washed-up Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett.
Sure.
So that was just a kind of a defining moment for me as a Nets fan and a basketball fan, and watching Kobe all throughout the years. I mean, I don't look at it that in real time, but looking back at it, it made a lot of sense. But just not only that, his game-winning shot against the Suns in the 2006 playoffs, just how he was able to get the shot off, win the game. The Lakers were not even supposed to be beating up on the Suns like that, but they went up 3-1 in that series. Unfortunately for Kobe, the Suns ended up coming back to win that series in Game 7. But, you've been seeing a lot of highlights and highlight mixes, and one of these highlights, this specific one, sticks out to you. You see him rip off the jersey, go, whoa, after hit that shot. I'm like, that defined Kobe. He just had so much emotion. He had so much, just everything about him, just so much passion, so much love for the game. He wasn't afraid to show off on the court, his abilities, but also just not hold himself back. He didn't suffocate himself to please others. He did what he needed to do out there.
And I think as someone, as I said, I had an appreciation for basketball growing up, but I was never the most invested person until later on. And even now, I wouldn't call myself the biggest basketball fan, but certainly someone who appreciates and can enjoy the sport quite a bit. And just like you and I'm sure millions of others, who grew up around this age, from our age group, our generation, whatever you want to call it, and you see it in the young basketball players who were so devastated by this, both off the court and on the court when games were played again after this tragedy. But everyone knew who Kobe was because he had such an impression left on so many different people, especially young people of our group. And when people would take shots at the garbage can with a piece of paper, everyone says Kobe.
Kobe.
I exactly. And just the other day, I forget what clip it was. It was something from a year ago. Not even a year ago. I think it was some reality show. I don't even remember which one. It might have been The Bachelor because I've been getting into that, believe it or not. But that's a discussion for another day. But filmed a while ago, and someone takes a shot and says Kobe, and this is not a sports fan whatever show it was. This wasn't a sports fan. I think it was somebody who was probably the last person on earth you'd picture watching sports. And they take a shot. I think it was just a basketball hoop. They're out in a driveway for some show, and this person says Kobe, and it's just it tells you about the not just the impact he had on the floor as a basketball player, but off the floor as a basketball player. This was something that was universally accepted, and I think you saw that not just in the United States but everywhere. I mean, this is someone in Kobe who traveled quite a bit. He learned multiple languages. He has a connection to Italy. He was over in all different parts of the world, spreading the game of basketball and putting on a show. Frankly, that this was a worldwide tragedy. This was something that you saw European soccer stars paying tribute. I think Neymar did a tribute the day of, the day it happened. And, you saw all of these super, I mean, we don't, you and I don't think either of us are the biggest soccer fans in the world, but, you know enough to know that these are the equivalents of Kobe in their sport, and they're paying homage to him because they've been inspired by him all the way over in Europe and elsewhere. So it's just something that it I think adds to the level of how surreal this is because nobody was expecting this. No one in the world saw this coming, and literally, everywhere around the world, people are devastated. And again, to put a something that's more positive or reflecting on the positive, I think that tells you not only the way he played the game and what he was able to do statistically, but how he conducted himself on the court. As you mentioned, showing that emotion, fearless in the face of great opponents. I mean, you hear him compared to Jordan. There's that viral video showing the comparisons between the two and how similar they were. You see, you hear stories about how he was, loved playing one of your favorites, Vince Carter, your favorite, I should say.
Well, yeah, obviously. That got
Back in the
something
day.
funny to say about that, actually.
Yeah.
Vince was on his podcast the other day. He mentioned that him and Kobe would go at it during games. One time,
Mhm.
Kobe fouled him very hard, like when Vince Carter was going up for a layup, and Vince just got in his face. He's like, yo, what was that for? They had to be separated. So that just kind of shows the relationship that both of them had. Fierce competitors,
Right.
Kobe wasn't going to back down on you just because you're Vince Carter or some other superstar. He's going to go at you like he'd go at everybody else. But, other superstars had that same mentality. They're like, just because you're Kobe doesn't mean I'm going to back down from you. And, obviously Vince Carter is my favorite. I'm still on his side, with all that stuff. I was like, that's my guy. But, I know it's all in competitive fun. But actually kind of to that point as well, the media tries to use these athletes to divide our like fandom towards them. Growing up, it would always be a debate: is it Kobe or is it LeBron? But Kobe's death kind of put into perspective that it's enough of that, enough of comparing these great
Mhm.
players. Appreciate them for the talent that they
Right.
got. LeBron's obviously a great player in his own right. Kobe's a great player in his own right. Stop comparing and contrasting them. Be like, oh, Kobe's got 5 rings, LeBron's only got 3. They played for the most part their bulk of their careers at times where both of them were at their peak. When Kobe's at his peak, LeBron was just coming up. When LeBron
Mhm.
started to reach to his peak, Kobe started to go down a little bit. So obviously things are a little bit different, but that's just, besides the point. You can obviously like one player more than the other, but don't let that take away the greatness that they display on the floor each and every night, because LeBron himself and Kobe himself were very close. And you saw that on display during the ceremony that the Lakers held for Kobe Bryant in their first game against Portland back at the
Right.
Staples Center. You saw LeBron, he was handed a piece of paper to speak on his fallen friend Kobe. LeBron just threw that out and said, I'll be selling you short if I don't tell you from the heart how I feel about Kobe. So LeBron went on to eulogize Kobe in his own words, and I respected that, because that's how you should grieve a loss of a close friend, from the heart, not through a piece of paper that somebody handed you. It has to come from your heart, because you know that's just the most authentic way to remember a friend. So you just kind of see on display how much respect these athletes have for each other, and put into perspective. I've been guilty about comparing and contrasting players in the past, and it comes at a cost of an appreciation of a player. But there comes a point where everybody has a right to their opinion, and just respect them for what they got out there.
Sure. And I think that when you talk about, you see how many people this has affected on the basketball, within the basketball world, and in the context of basketball, the effect he had on the game, the effect he had on the fans. I think, that's only just a part of the picture. And the phrase and the term and the branding, so to speak, that arose out of Kobe's greatness was Mamba mentality. He was the Black Mamba. He was this great embodiment of tenacity and danger in terms of his playing ability, and then of course just the way he defines himself through that and what he was and what he stood for. Samir, I'm curious to hear your interpretation of it. I have my definition. I think, it certainly is probably very similar to what yours is. But as far as this Mamba mentality, it's something we've heard time and again while Kobe was alive, and then of course time and again after he's passed. But what do you think that means, and how do you interpret the Mamba mentality?
Well, Tim, I interpret the Mamba mentality as going that extra mile and putting in the extra work to going above and beyond whatever you're passionate about. Kobe even says, no bravado or something that I'm better than you. It's just a mindset that you got to live by each and every day, to put in that work, to obsess with something, and just be great at it. Don't make excuses for something that may be holding you back, like something as simple as him not being a 7-foot guy, so I can't play in the post. Obviously, there are limitations sometimes where it comes to one's ability, but don't let that define you. Find ways around it. Find anything possible you can in order to achieve your goal. Sometimes, yeah, it could be a struggle. I can't speak for everybody on that. Sometimes there are legitimate factors that may prevent you from achieving what you want to achieve. But, when there's a will, there's a way. And that's what Kobe lived by, being with his daughters as well. He only had like 20 minutes to spend with them on some days, because he'd be busy traveling or busy with his basketball life. But he enjoyed those 20 minutes with his daughters when he'd pick them up from practices or school events and whatnot. And, he didn't let being a basketball player stop him from being a father. He took time, even for just a little bit. He took that time out of his schedule to be a father, and to shuttle his daughters to events such as basketball practice, and to beat the LA traffic, which we all know is awful. He had a personal helicopter to get him to these places and still be able to live out the life. Obviously, he's a very rich man. He can afford these luxuries, but he didn't take that to his advantage. He used that very well to his advantage and was able to accomplish everything. And I want to hear your thoughts now, Tim.
Yeah, well, and I think it's to your point. What you mentioned was, I think it's in Kobe's been quoted as saying very similarly that it's being passionate about whoever or whatever it is you do, and striving to be as best as possible at whatever it is you do. And I think he phrases it as everybody has their box. For me, it was it was for my playing career, it was basketball, and for so anybody, it can be anything. But his ideals were that you just work and work and work and pursue whatever your passion is to the fullest degree and as far as you can take it, and work as hard as you can to be the best that you can. And he think one of the things that really resonated with me with that was the fact that it was, that's how you build something that lasts forever. That's something that is a Lou Gehrig level quote in my mind, and it's true. And for Kobe Bryant, that was so much more than just basketball, and that's what's really been, not it's nothing new because people knew this, but now people like me who knew who Kobe was, but maybe didn't do all the homework on what he was off the court after his career had ended. That meant so much more, and that's come out so much now with how much people are talking and reflecting on his life. There were so many things. You mentioned his being a father and that being extremely important to him, and not only that, he was a proponent and a champion for women's basketball, having four daughters, and Gigi, of course, who was on the helicopter, being a chip off the old block in terms of basketball ability and his ability, his fierceness in pursuing the promotion of that game. And I know you've seen quotes and mentioned quotes about how women's basketball players have really appreciated that. But beyond just that, I mean, being an Oscar-winning creator of not only a short animated film, but also he wrote some children's books about called Dear Basketball. It's expressing his appreciation for what the sport did for him and what it can do for so many people, and it's all of those things. I don't even have to speculate that he approached it with the same mentality as he did his basketball career, which was just to be as perfect as you possibly can be by working as hard as you possibly can, taking what talent you have and maximizing it with just tireless work ethic. And you hear all the stories like you mentioned about during his playing days, how he pushed his teammates and both himself and his teammates. And he's said as much, in quotes, that it was a push, it was a sacrifice and a tough struggle for him too. But he kept doing it and kept persevering. That and then just the way he imparted that ideology on everyone, seemingly everyone he encountered. I mean, you've heard a million different people talk about how they met Kobe and how they were really impressed and how he gave them advice, like a guy like Michael Wilbon talking about his son, who the first athlete he introduced his son to was Kobe Bryant. And his son said, I want to be just like you. I don't like school. I'm going to be a basketball player. And Kobe took him off to the side for 5 minutes, and that kid came back. And Wilbon said his kid was 8 years old at the time. Came back with a totally different mentality after talking to Kobe and a different priorities list. I know Michael Wilbon's talked about his health and how you've told this story in the past about his heart condition. He almost had a heart attack or had a heart attack.
No, he had a heart attack.
Right.
So he had a heart attack, and then Kobe basically told him that you got to change yourself because you got kids you got to raise, and you have an impact on this world that, you have so many years left to live, and you got an impact to still leave on this world. So you can't be living like this. You got to change. Like he said, it had a lot of expletives in it, but that just shows the fiery emotion. Sometimes you got to use those expletives to get your point across.
Exactly. And I think that to me is that's an authentic person, in that he carried himself the same way no matter who you were. And you could take his advice and he'd help you, or you could leave it and, that would be that. But, at the end of the day, I think that's important, just as, if not more important than any kind of sports career, which don't get me wrong. I mean, his career is incredible and it's impressive and it's an all-time great. But at the end of the day, his impact away from the court and just trying to inspire people, trying to really pass along what he's learned to as many people as he could. That to me is how you're supposed to handle yourself when you are blessed with what Kobe's blessed with. Because let's be honest, he's blessed with amazing natural talent, but he never wasted it. He never wasted it. And you hear about how a lot of people talk about his maturation from a young fiery player coming straight out of high school at 18 years old, playing in the NBA, and how he was at the time, just like most 18-year-olds. There was maybe some immaturity to, how he conducted himself, but he was always that fiery, passionate guy, and that continued to go towards a more positive attitude. And as he grew, he channeled it in the best way possible, and that he was going to use it to fuel him, not only himself, but to be able to help others and inspire others. And as he grew as a player and a man, he became a father and became a dedicated, devoted father, and to the point where he was taking helicopter rides, as you said, to his daughter's basketball games. And unfortunately, that's how he passed away, but through no fault of anyone's, but just pure, random, horrible circumstance. And, all these things, we talk about how life is just very, very, it can be taken. It's very fragile. It can be taken away in a blink of an eye. And Kobe, I think, without ever maybe having to say it, and I'm sure he probably has said something to this effect, because it's a common phrase, but living your life to the fullest, and I know he said things about that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
he
he
practiced
absolutely
that,
did.
and I think he, in 41 years, as tragic as it is, as horrible as it is, and how much he should have had left, he lived more in 41 years than I think most people live in 80 to 100.
I agree with that 100%. That's why I think he had so much left to give to life. I think he hit it spot on as well. He used his platform to motivate people. That's what got him an Oscar. Just that beautiful and eloquent movie he put together,
Mhm.
Dear Basketball, stating his love for the game and how it reached him to new heights and how he was able to chase a dream and win 5 championships with the Lakers. He didn't do that just by going out there and hoisting jump shots every night and showing up his opponent. He did that through hard work, sacrifice, and a willingness to be great. And in his second career outside of basketball, he's used that to help motivate his daughter and serve as an ambassador for women's basketball. He took his daughter, Gigi, under his wing, despite people saying that he needed to have a son to carry on his legacy. He firmly believed that Gigi had what it takes to carry the Mamba mentality and Kobe's legacy into women's basketball and the WNBA. Gigi had Kobe Bryant's fadeaway jumper in the face of a defender. She had that shot on lockdown. She had that mastered. She can do that in her sleep. Just watching the highlights that I've seen on display that's been surfacing around the web. But winning an Oscar for a professional athlete, that's a big deal, man. I
Yep.
think that's a huge deal. And you know why, Tim?
Mm. Why is that?
Because in an age where athletes are becoming more vocal about social issues and everything going on in the country, and ignorant hosts like Laura Ingraham stating that basketball players should shut up and dribble, that just sent a clear and a powerful message that no, you don't shut up and dribble. You speak out and try to inspire and motivate people through creating short films or through your actions and through interview quotes. You speak your mind and you try to inspire and bring awareness to some of the things that's going on in this world. And I encourage athletes to continue to do that, because in your everyday life, when you're growing up and going to school, you don't always get that motivation from educators on how to live life to its fullest, and take failure with a grain of salt and use that to motivate you and better you. When you fail an exam in school, all you see is below a 65 on your exam. You don't see that there's room to grow in your average for the semester or for uh, the quarter, however they evaluated your performance. You see that your grade is going to be lower than it potentially could because of just one exam that you failed. And I don't think that's fair, because there are so many different ways to express your knowledge about life and just your intelligence than just correctly guessing on a multiple choice exam. So, growing up, yeah, a lot of these kids don't have the motivators in their everyday lives going to school or whatnot. How they get that motivation, though, is by participating in sports. And then eventually they gravitate towards their favorite athletes and seeing them lead by example. You see all their on court highlights. You see all the swag that they bring out there. You see all that. You see that confidence. And that rubs off on you. But then when you see off the court, their interview quotes, or uh, things of that nature, where they inspire you to keep going and to take failure with a grain of salt and just keep pushing. That'll inspire somebody to make a change, because life is bigger than just whatever you got on that exam. There's a lot more to life than just a stupid test or something so stupid that you look back at 5 years down the line. But what sticks with you forever is the impact that a person leaves on you, and the inspiration they take from you, and how they can push you to new levels. So I think right there, that's what Kobe's all about, and that's why I take that shut up and dribble statement very seriously, because that's just, you can obviously disagree with what some of these players have to say, but you can't take away their right to speak and try to make an impact on everyday lives. So that shut up and dribble narrative needs to shut up and go away.
Oh, I think that's well said, and I think that, Kobe, I think when even in the process of making Dear Basketball, was quoted as saying something to the effect, if he was able to win an Oscar, that would be amazing. Not only for himself, because it would, be another achievement for him, but also to prove to athletes, because you think about it, even though athletes are the peak of the peak as far as, humanity is concerned with athleticism, even then, so many of them, even at that level, at that top 1% of athletic talent, so many of them are in their professional sport for just a handful of years. It's probably the 1% of that 1% that go on to have careers like Kobe. So many of these guys are, and guys and girls, men and women, when they are done with their athletic career, a lot of them don't know what to do next, and some of them find out, nice second careers, and whether that's running a restaurant or going around touring or going into the media and being a broadcaster as a, Tony Romo type, or you could list a ton of different athletes across all different platforms. But, it's still a challenge for so many, and with so many that either didn't finish college because they went out early to go to whatever professional sport they're in, or their college degree doesn't really lead them anywhere, or they didn't do very well in college, and their post playing days, if they don't have a lot of money saved up, turns into a struggle for a lot of reasons. And there's documentaries and lots of things about this. Kobe went out there and put it on record saying, hey, you can do other things, and you can do it extremely well, and it's about finding out what those things are. And I think that's as much a message to athletes as it is to everybody, and things in today's day and age, especially, and I can relate to this. And Samir, I think, we both can, you start down a certain way in your professional career, and things change for whatever reason. And it's kind of a similar message. It's even if things don't work out the way you initially thought, or if they go a different route, it's not the end of the line. It's not that you can't reinvent yourself. I mean,
Far from
it's
over.
it's or just find something else that is your passion, something else that means something to you, and pursuing that. And Samir, I want to take it to there next, is for yourself personally, but also for everyone. How do you think that we can, I don't want to say celebrate, or not celebrate, but I don't want to say be inspired by Kobe and Gigi and the other seven on that helicopter's deaths. I want to say, how can we be inspired by their lives? Because even in the instance of Gigi and her teammates, who were obviously so young, and it's so tragic. But how can, even in then, I mean, they I'm sure in their own lives had plenty of accomplishments, but of course, gone way too soon, and there was so much more ahead. But for all of them, how can we be kind of inspired by what they were able to do in their lives, even without knowing all of the things that they all did? I mean, because let's be honest, the rest of that, the people on that helicopter aren't going to get the publicity that Kobe has, and because he was who he was. But at the same time, there was a baseball coach. There was, a multitude of people that were successful parents. So, you're talking about all these other people that lived their lives and lived them well. And, how can we be inspired, both you individually and everybody? How can we be inspired by what they were able to do while they were here, and while they had the time that they were given and unfortunately taken taken away from too soon.
Well, first of all, I think we can learn a lot from Kobe Bryant and the legacy he left on this world because what you saw was somebody who obsessed with the game of basketball. He loved it to no means. And I saw in a recent interview, he said that sometimes he felt embarrassed because he was so in love with basketball. But, I can understand why he feels some sort of embarrassment about that. But don't feel embarrassed because that just shows that you love what you do and you're passionate about it. And that's what keeps you moving every day, and that's what has transformed you off of the court into somebody who still had a lot to give to life and to the game of basketball, winning an Oscar, serving as an ambassador for women's basketball, and to his daughter Gigi, taking her under his wing and showing that women can be inspired to go out there and be the next great basketball player. The WNBA has seen so many great basketball players throughout the years. You got Sue Bird, you got Diana Taurasi, you got Candace Parker, and now we got Sabrina Ionescu coming up through the ranks. Forgive me if I pronounced her name incorrectly, but the great Oregon guard is set out to make an impact as the first overall pick coming up in this year's WNBA's draft. Kobe took her under her wing, and she was deeply affected by the loss of Kobe. So you see the impact that Kobe has been leaving on the women's side of things as well, and it was beautiful to see the impact he's been leaving and giving women more of a platform to inspire other young girls to play the game of basketball, and seeing Gigi out there as well. I think that was just a beautiful, lasting legacy left on this planet, and he had much more to give on that. But on the other side of things, I just think that we can all learn to just give it your all what you want to do out there. If you want to do something, if you want to be the next great basketball player, and you feel like you have the talent for it, learn from Kobe, watch his clips, and study obsessively about different footwork techniques or how to perfect your jump shot or rebounding skills. Learn through that, but it can be applied in all other areas of life. Just practice relentlessly. Don't care about what people say and obsess over it. We are oftentimes taught to not obsess over things growing up, and I think that should be wrong. Obsess with whatever you're passionate about, and that's how you're going to be successful because you're going to study that passion that you have, and you're going to be on a whole nother level from the rest of your competition, and the opportunities will be endless. So having that Mamba mentality is just, it's going to separate you from the pack, all facets of life.
Well, I think again, I think that's well said. I think what I would add to that is of course it and I know you alluded to this, but it's beyond just basketball, it's beyond just sports, but like you said, it's finding your passion and living and breathing it. And it sometimes is a challenge to find that. And I think that's part of it, is figuring out, whether you're an athlete or not an athlete, what you love doing, what you enjoy doing, what you find satisfaction in doing, and pursuing it to I guess the I don't know the correct phrase, but to the nth degree, to the very, very pinnacle of whatever it is that you do. And it doesn't always come with fanfare. It doesn't always come with press clippings and highlight reels and adulation and awards. It sometimes is a thankless job. You could do things that are out of the spotlight and out of the whatever is considered the mainstream way of people being appreciated for things, and it's just, I think you owe it to yourself to try to be the best you can be. And I know that's cliche per se, but it's not no less true. It's I think the Mamba mentality is believing that you can be the best at what you do. Now, with athletics and things of that nature, there is a talent level that goes into it. And anything, there's a talent level for certain things. But I just think that, it's, you don't know your own limits if you don't test them. And I think that's what Kobe was so good at, and being able to push himself to that level
each and every day is what made him so dynamically brilliant. And it wasn't just because of talent and his obvious is obvious brilliance as far as picking up different things. You picking up sports, picking up film, picking up writing. Those things are all impressive, and those things are all based on some talent that had to be there, but it's maximized by the fact that Kobe was going to leave it all on the table, and that he was not going to take any shortcuts or again, something that he said quite a bit was he wasn't going to fear failure. He was willing to fail as long as it helped him get better. And he was willing to fail over and over again to do that. And obviously in basketball, he had his off nights here and there, just like any other player, but they weren't many. And, at the end of the day, he learned from those mistakes. And I think that is something that you mentioned, people not maybe obsessing over things and how that's kind of looked down upon. But I would also add to that is people, I think, are, and I count myself involved in this, are tentative to do certain things because of the fallout if you don't succeed or if you're not perfect at it. And the reality of the situation is you are going to fail at things, but it doesn't mean the end of your pursuit of excellence or your pursuit of your goals there. And I think that's what Kobe has said. And he said you can't live with fear of failure. You have to embrace it. And he embraced it. And I think that is something that separates, especially within sports, but also just in life. If you adopt that mentality, which again I know is hard to do. I mean, I struggle with that. Like I said, I struggle with that myself, and it's a confidence thing for sure. You want to be as confident as you can be, but it's okay to fail certain things. It's okay to be struggling at certain things because it teaches you something, no matter what it is. Maybe it teaches you something you don't want to do. Maybe it teaches you something that, and I'm not saying quit if you fail something, but I'm saying if you find ways, if after trying again and again and again that things are not maybe going the way you want, then you adjust and you adapt, but you don't quit. That's really, I think, as much a part of the message as well is that let it teach you something. Let it teach you what you're good at, what you're not good at, and work to obviously improve. But continue to do it and try to find something that keeps bringing you back to that struggle and to that grind to try to be better. That, like you said, Kobe, almost felt embarrassed at times, and how much he loved the game and how much he was obsessive over the game. And I think that is the key. And I think one thing that was said that really resonated with me, and I forget who exactly said it. It might have been on ESPN, but they said that Kobe, post his playing days, was just so, it seemed he was so at peace, so happy with where he was in life, with what he was doing during his playing days, agitated because competition has that effect on people. Is if you're always competing, you're always restless, you're always trying to be better. And Kobe was that and always trying to win. But when you're out of the game, I think there was some elements of competition for him, but also I would guess that he was now in a role where he felt accomplished. He felt he had so much to give and teach. And that's what he was doing with his kids, with his wife, with the people he interacted with every single day, with people he didn't interact with. He had that effect where people respected his accomplishments to such a degree, and the way he conducted himself with that Mamba mentality, that is where he was at peace with his role, so to speak, in this world is to now be a teacher. And I think he fully embraced that. So, bringing it all back around for me, I think it's that. I think it's don't fear failure. Don't fear, what the lows are when you're pursuing something, because there are going to be highs because of it. And it teaches you, it makes you a more complete person, no matter what it is you do, if you give your all to something. And I think that you'll learn more than anything else will teach you about yourself. And I know all of that is all of that has been said before, but I think if you're ever looking for an example, to me, it's Kobe Bryant. And I think there are others too, very similarly, that have had very successful lives and careers, especially in sports. But Kobe is in the epitome of that dogged determination to be the best you can be.
Absolutely. I think Kobe Bryant was that walking example of being successful through failures and just serving as a motivator post his playing career and at peace with where he was at following his playing career. He was such a fiery competitor. You know, there were times where I would think that he couldn't stay retired. He would try to find his way back in the league because today he could still be playing out there. You know, Vince Carter, being a year older than Kobe, is still out there playing and contributing his knowledge of the game to the younger generation and continuing to have fun out there. Kobe could have done the same thing, but I think he was just so at peace with coming home to his wife and kids and serving as an inspirational father figure to them, and in other ways getting an Oscar award and just finding his passion through art and creativity and just creativity and getting his message across through writing nonfiction young adult books and stuff like that. Simple things like that. But as an aside, Tim, I really also like how you mentioned that you learned that don't fear failure because growing up, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there are times where I did fear failure, and sometimes I do struggle with it. Sometimes I fear that the competition is just gonna be too great for me, and sometimes I'm gonna fear that I'm gonna fail. So sometimes I may not even bother. I may kind of give up. But learning from Kobe, nah, you just give it your best out there, man, and you gotta learn and you gotta be a sponge and just take in every knowledge you get and fail hard. Just always be willing to fail because that's gonna teach you. That's the best teacher that you can get is failure because that forces you to adjust and develop the knowledge and the skills to be better than your competition moving forward, and kind of it serves as an assessment and on where to get better. Because if you're always successful, if you always had things handed to you, or if you always just got it, then you're gonna get complacent and you're just not gonna be able to move forward in your life and your career. Eventually, you're gonna hit a plateau, and they're gonna be people that are ready to stomp on you on the way to the top because they're just gonna be willing to put in that extra work that you just weren't willing to put in. So, it all comes down to just having that work ethic and not caring what people say. That's another thing I think sometimes I struggle with is that somebody may judge me if I try to step out the box and do something like doing this podcast or trying to be on air and stuff like that. And people might say, "Oh, he sucks," or "He's gonna fail. Why is he putting himself out there?" Well, you know what? You can say that all you want. At least I put myself out there to be successful. There have been times that I failed. During our time at Oswego, Tim,
Mm-hmm.
I will say this: thank you so much for being an inspiration to me up there. Without you, I wouldn't have found my footing as much as I did. I had plenty of times that I failed up at Oswego. So my first semester up there, I didn't really know you. You didn't know me. My entire first year there, but my first semester there, I ran into bouts where I failed.
Yeah.
But speaking class, I made some points where rubbed my professor the wrong way. So she would write on the rubric, what she disagreed with, and she gave me, a not so flattering grade because of it. So that at that time caused me to evaluate, like, where am I right now in life? Am I just wrong? Like, am I just, you know, do I have to change my way of thinking? But looking back at that, she seemed like she was kind of unhappy with her life, so she found pleasure with failing people at times. And if something you said triggered her the other way, you wouldn't be scared to put down a failing remark uh, on your project or whatever it was. So looking back at that, I have no regrets because I stood by my principles and I spoke whatever I felt like was correct in that moment. That's what Kobe wanted to do because it's staying true to yourself and just and just not giving in to society. You got to rise above that in order to be great, and it's gonna cause failure sometimes. It's on you to adjust and to get your message out to the right people and find yourself in the right area of life where you're meant to be. And on the other side of things, there's a time where I failed to get the sports anchor position at our college TV station. I was made fun of for that by a couple of my friends. I'm not going to mention their names on the air this time around, at least, because that's just not the right thing to do. But you know who you are if you're listening to this. You follow our pages on both Twitter and Instagram. Hint, hint. No, I'm just kidding, but you do. Let's just say, yeah, you said a couple of things to me that rubbed me off the wrong way and inspired me. I was like, no, I'm gonna ace my next audition, man. I'm gonna go in there and fucking kill it. So next year rolls around, get into the studio, just went out and did my thing and left nothing on the table there. And I got it, and it wasn't. I had my struggles initially from that. There's times where, I just sometimes I would just struggle with the teleprompter because it was so damn far and
Yeah.
track of my script. But I overcame that, and eventually there came a time where I could have been selected to be the morning on-air sports anchor. And a lot of people, I can understand because, you got classes or college can be, draining because you got a lot of work going on in the morning, so it can be hard to get up. Totally understand that, but my situation, yeah, it sucked getting up at like 5 a.m. sometimes or 6 a.m. and getting to that studio and writing your scripts and preparing yourself for a morning on-air cast. But I took that as a challenge. I took that as a challenge because I knew I can go on every week and show them what I got and not lose reps, not lose the momentum that could make me a better on-air sports talent. I knew that this was the right opportunity for me, more exposure, and just like the ability to create my own cast as best as I can to my ability. Just I had everything going for me in that role. So I took inner Mamba mentality, woke up every morning, got dressed up, and went to work every day. And looking back on that inspired that just like inspired a way of me to focus on growth. I'm losing my footage on words here, but
No.
bottom
Well,
line is that it just pushed me harder, and I think I grew a lot from that experience.
well, and I think that it relates to Kobe as such that, and life in general. I don't think you don't grow or you don't get stronger if you just stay in a bubble. You don't just there's not this you don't just absorb this. You can be as talented as Kobe Bryant, in terms of basketball or anything in life. If you translate that over to, like Samir, you're saying, in terms of media and speaking ability and charisma on camera and all those things, you can be as naturally talented as anybody. But if you don't run that through its course, if you don't put that through trials, if you don't put yourself through all of that, it's meaningless, and it won't be you won't develop things to the extent that will get you to where you want to be. And I think that not just in terms of careers and not just in terms of tangible things like money or fame or things like that, followers, all those things. I think just as a person, you grow when you push yourself. And I think that is the hardest thing to do, because in college, it's it's hard. It's like you said, you juggle a lot of things, but in the real world, if you will, I think college is also the real world. But being an adult and in a professional setting, it can be hard because a lot of things can weigh on you. A lot of things can be piled up at the same time. A lot of things can eat up your time very quickly, and all these things are real challenges. But I think it's if you're able to push yourself beyond just getting the bare minimum done and just checking off whatever needs to be checked off. And I'm guilty of not always doing that, of not being going beyond that, I should say. I think that for me personally is kind of what is so. And I've had reminders in my life that life is not guaranteed and life is very short, and it can be taken from you very, very quickly, and untimely. And it's another reminder of that. And like I said, I wasn't, I knew who Kobe was, and I appreciated the fact that he was a great basketball player. Played 2K with him, as him as a player in the game. You could use him and play your friends, and that was always a lot of fun because you'd always beat your friends if you used Kobe, and those types of things. But it's even that, not as his biggest fan, seeing him killed and seeing him in such a tragic way, um, it really does reinforce something that I think we all already know, is that we don't live forever. But when you're reminded of that in such a jarring fashion, it really does kind of stick with you. And it's kind of important, I think, to not just let it fall out of the back of your mind or fall out of your memory. And it's not, even if you could even be a non-basketball fan, and even if you're not the biggest Kobe fan, if you were just somebody who could understand and appreciate greatness in a very challenging and competitive field like Kobe was in, not just in basketball, but the other things we discussed, even just being a very present and loving father. I think everyone can relate to that, whether they're fathers or mothers. It's just all of those things are reminders of you can, it's important to live every day like it could end tomorrow, and I think that is, again, it's not a new message, but it's something that I think we all can appreciate. And I think it's something that it's really important, and it's something that I'm going to strive to do, is live life more like that. Live it more like, it can be taken. You could walk down the street. I could walk down the street tomorrow and get hit by a bus, and it's not to think about it in that sense, but in the sense that understanding that things like that can happen. Cancer, illness, things of that nature can take you, no matter what age you are, no matter how healthy you've been prior to that. I've seen it. It's tough, and it's something that can change everything in a heartbeat. And I think that is more than anything, what is important. And you're never going to have full understanding of this world, because there are things that, like Kobe's death and like his daughter's death and everyone on that helicopter's death, that don't make sense. And I think all that we can do is, and this is probably my favorite quote from anything, and it's not cheesy, but it's a Lord of the Rings quote that it's something to the effect of we can only decide what to do with the time that's been given to us, and we don't know what that time is. That's not the full quote, but it's that message. And I think that with Kobe is what will resonate with me. And I think that's something that I hope that I can take and move forward, and that the rest of this world can take forward. And I'm not trying to sit here pretending to tell everyone what to do, but I just think, for me personally, that is something that will sit with me and isn't going to just go away, and I'm not going to allow it to go away, and it's important to live like that. In my mind, to live more like Kobe Bryant. I know I'm not an athlete, but as far as just day to day, and
Garrett Cole.
What's that?
I thought you were Garrett Cole.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's right. I'm just dropping in. I'm doing my publicity tour. I might grow my hair out again, actually, but no, I think that, and of course the other message I would say is appreciate the people in your life that mean something to you. Samir, you're my brother. I love you. I love doing these types of things with you. I need to say that to people close to me, in my family more. And I've said, I've not done that sometimes in the past, and you regret it forever once you realize those types of things can hit you and your family, and they have, and and again, and it's not to say that I'm perfect in this at all. It's more like a reminder that, hey, realize that this is not guaranteed. Nothing is, and other than death, death and taxes, right? And that, not to be all disappointed, not to be downer, but that's the truth. And so it's important to me that one, as I said, to live like Kobe's Mamba mentality, and attacking every day with the idea of being the best version of yourself, and two, appreciating the people in your life that are important to you, and that are major influences, friends, loved ones, all of those things, appreciate every second, because it is, I mean, it can be gone in a heartbeat. And my heart goes out to Vanessa Bryant, her daughters. I can't imagine what they're going through. Even, it's been a couple of weeks, but that's nothing. I mean, that's a pin drop. I'm sure the last 2 weeks have probably been the most agonizing and also blur of an experience imaginable, because of all the things and all the things that they're trying to process. And I won't pretend to go any further than that. I'm not going to speculate any further than that. I want to respect their privacy, as well as the others, the loved ones of the others lost on that helicopter. But my heart is with them. It's a horrible thing that they have to go through. And as with everyone who is family members with people on that helicopter, or loved ones or friends. So it's just very important that we don't take that for granted. And I think I need to be better at that. I think, and just, again, knowing that is reality. So, at the end of that, Samir, I don't want to just repeat myself, but, I think that's what I take from this, and that's what I take moving forward.
Absolutely, Tim. I think that's well said. I love you too, my brother. Glad we can do this podcast together. Always remember that time we met in Secaucus. I just approached you and I was like, "Oh, that's my guy from college." And I didn't really know who you were, but then that whole train ride back, we would just talk like for the entire ride back, and I knew that this could be the start of a good friendship. I mean, I didn't expect it to reach the level it has reached today. But hey, sometimes it's these little encounters that lead to something bigger. And absolutely, I agree as well that we just gotta live life more like Kobe Bryant, like leave everything out on the table and not make excuses as to where you want to be in life. If you have a passion, just chase it. Put everything on the table and go for it. Don't I said this before on this podcast. Don't let anyone's perception stop you from what you want to do. The only person that can stop you is you. Otherwise, whatever everybody's got to say about you, that shit's for the birds, man. Don't care about what they got to say. If they make fun of you, that's just an insecurity on their part. They want to tear you down because they're insecure that they don't have the mentality or whatever it takes for them to reach their level. So all they know what to do is put people down. They're just average people. That's it. They're okay with mediocrity, and if they see somebody go above that, their ego is gonna feel threatened by that. They're gonna find a way to bring you down to earth. They don't want to see you succeed. So take that as it is. This goes to a lot of people, growing up, like going through the middle school and the high school ranks. If somebody sees that you're passionate about something, they're gonna find a way to make fun of you about it and try to undermine your skill set. People saw that I was very passionate about basketball. They knew I loved basketball. Some people would tell me, "Oh, I bet you I can beat you in a game of one-on-one." I'm like, "All right, let's play." In gym class, and some they were good players in their own right, but they just saw me as some big brown kid that probably didn't know how to play basketball at all. But I showed them what I was about. I go up against football players and guys who may have been a little bit better shape than me, but I just loved basketball that much that I knew how to get the job done. I may not have been the best basketball player compared to some of my other peers, but I always make it a point to at least give it all I got out there and show them that I'm capable of being on the same court out there as you. And I just had such a passion for basketball that, sometimes people will try to bring me down, but looking back at that, the guys who wouldn't put me down were actually good at basketball. They would actually crush me, but they would try to inspire me to be great instead of trying to be up there in my face. But the guys who talk shit, those are the guys I would beat because they were just insecure about their own ability and try to bring me down. So that was just living proof that that their average mindset allowed them to try to make fun of people, but they couldn't back it up. So the guys, true leaders, come from guys who are actually good at their craft, but try to inspire instead of bringing people down. That's what true leadership is. For all you middle school and high school kids out there, I encourage you, even if you're in college or something, or even in the workplace, I encourage you. This goes to anybody actually, but especially in middle school and high school, or elementary school kids watching this. Have at it. I encourage you. If you see a kid sitting alone at the lunch table, go up to them, invite them to sit with you, because that's what's going to stick out to them for the rest of their lives. They'll forever be grateful that you gave them a chance to fit in and not make them feel alone. And you never know, that kid could be the dopest kid you ever meet. They just weren't given a chance because everybody wants to stick with their own friend group. There are times in high school, the most popular lunch tables actually had those people that would normally sit by themselves. I respected the hell out of that. I was like, you know, like they didn't care about their social status in school, that they're gonna have some guy who was perceived by many to be a loser. They were sitting right there with them, and that's what Kobe would want to see. That's what a lot of professional athletes would want to see. You step up to the plate, help those that may feel alone enough for them to sit at the lunch table by themselves, or see them getting picked on by a group of kids in class. You stepping up to the plate and telling them to, any variation of fuck off. Like, if you tell them to fuck off, and you get a referral or you get suspended for that, or detention, whatever the punishment is, then you did nothing wrong. Yeah, you may have to serve whatever punishment you get, but you did the right thing by telling them to fuck off, and and be loud and serve as a leader to that kid that's getting bullied. I mean, any decent teacher would allow for that word to be let go, because they would see that a kid is clearly going through stuff, and this kid was brave enough to go out there and use such a strong word against a group of kids to get them to stop bullying that kid. But just, that's my message to you guys. That's also a form of Mamba mentality. Go out there, stand up for what's right. Always, it can be in any situation, and that's how you command respect at the end of the day, by trying to inspire people and trying to just make a difference in everybody's lives. That's what Kobe and Mamba mentality is all about. And as you said as well, Tim, my heart goes out to Vanessa and the rest of the Bryants as well. This is just a tragic, tragic event. I can't pretend to know what they're going through. I respect their privacy as well throughout their time, but to honor Kobe Bryant and to honor Gigi Bryant, she would love to see a whole generation of boys and girls play basketball and take that Mamba mentality moving forward and serve as positive members of society, and not try to be average and try to fit in. Do what's right from the bottom of your heart. Chase your passion, and only good things will happen to you.
I think that's well said, Samir, and that is another reason why you said I inspire you. You push me because you have this undeniable passion for it, man, and not just for media stuff, not just this, but in everything that you do. So just know that is contagious, and that is also something Kobe Bryant, a characteristic I think that he had that was absolutely contagious. But Samir, I want to wrap it up, and I just want to say that. Again, I don't mean to sit up here saying that that I more than any other person understand tragedy or anything like that. I'm not here to say that. But I think that, we can all learn and be inspired from the lives of Kobe Bryant, his daughter, Gigi, and the others on that plane, helicopter, all of them. And I think that that's what they would all want, not that this to happen, obviously, but just that in this, that people move forward having a greater understanding and appreciation for what life is and what it can be, and what it can, what it can be if you're not, if you're not trying to be all the things we discussed, and how, we I'm not going to say you're telling people they owe anybody anything, but I think it's important that we do take whatever time is given to us and move forward, trying to live all of it, if that makes any sense. But again, Kobe Bryant, gone way too young, an NBA champion, an MVP, an all-star, you name it, his accolades, they're in there. And beyond that, an inspiration to if millions, if not, I would even venture to say there's probably billions that know who he is and what he was able to do. So, rest in peace to him, to his daughter, to everyone on that helicopter, and of course, nothing but good thoughts and condolences to all the loved ones affected by this.
Absolutely, Tim. That's well said. And I just want to wrap my statements up as well. I appreciate you calling me passionate. You bring that side out of me too. Doing this podcast, I get fired up because I'm just ready to go and talk sports, man. With one of the best guys to do it with. It just pushes me and inspires me to stay on top of sports and, just spread my message forward. I'm glad that you signed on to do this podcast with me. I can't going to pick a better person to go on this ride with. But another thing, I can't record this podcast without making mention of this one incident in college. All right, so we were at a bar in Oswego. I believe it was Hurricanes.
Oh, yeah.
2 cans. We were downstairs. Both of us had plenty of drinks in us, and that's just to say the least. We had plenty of drinks with us, and Darren Williams has had a huge night against the Toronto Raptors, and that's for making their playoff push. I was just like, let's go. He's still showing the world that he still has what it got to be one of the best point guards in the NBA. I'm as passionate as a Brooklyn Nets fan as they come. I always, bring them up when I'm drunk or even when I'm sober. They just always find a way to come up to me. Everybody knows I'm a big time Nets fan, but we just got into a conversation. I was just so hyped because the Nets pulled off a big win, fueled by Darren Williams' big time performance. I'm like, he's still got this, man. I was like, he can still be one of the best point guards of the NBA. He just has to believe in himself. He has to be in that situation where he can thrive and be one of the best point guards because he still got it. And you were just listening to me. You're like, oh man, like you're like agreeing with me and everything. I was like, I never felt so empowered in that moment. Everybody else, my brother included, would tell me that he's washed up. Everybody would be like, he's done. Like, why are you still rooting for him? I'm like, well, I'm rooting for him because he brought winning basketball back to the great Nets organization. We were a train wreck for the last few years before he came, and he helped turn that around. I can't turn my back on him now, especially when the organization's not doing what it takes to win. So, I just remember that's a moment that'll stand out to me forever. Just you hearing me out there and just like allowing me to speak my mind off a few drinks. I was like so hyped that like, oh man, it came to a point where I was getting a little delusional about our playoff push. I was thinking, man, the Nets make the finals this year. I gotta go to a game. Like I was thinking because we were playing the Hawks so well. The Hawks were a 60-win team. We were a 37-win team. We tied them 2-2 in the series, and a lot of people did not have us even winning a game in the series. I was like, yo, like if we actually beat the Hawks, like I gotta think about saving money for finals tickets or something because that's a huge win. I mean, obviously there's LeBron and the Cavs, but I was like, hey, if we beat the Hawks, we can beat LeBron and the Cavs. But bringing it back to Kobe here real fast, though. Again, my heart goes out to Vanessa and her 3 daughters, and during the difficult time. Now, obviously, to the media, respect their privacy, and we'll all grieve together and always remember Kobe beating Bryant for being a great ambassador for men's and women's basketball and just serving as a creative and innovative storyteller and someone who has left this mark this on this planet in just 41 years. And, like you said before, he accomplished more in 41 years than a lot of people accomplished closer to the 90th birthday. I know somebody who I can't say I was too fond of. He lived to about being 90. My family, he I don't think he left much of an impact on this world. Whereas Kobe, he brought twice as much impact to this world, and I just wish that we could see that further develop and see a beautiful father-daughter combination or duo just fully manifest itself into something beautiful. So rest in peace to Kobe and Gigi, and again, my hearts go out to the Bryants.
Well said, Samir. And as we wrap things up one more time, we both want to take this moment to pay our respects, but also to wish condolences, as we said, to all loved ones involved in this, to those lost, and to those who are still living now, moving forward and living out the rest of what is hopefully long, accomplished, happy lives. So, with that said, we are going to wrap things up, and we'll see you next time on Shooting the Breeze.
Gonna end it right here with one phrase that we all grew up saying: "Throwing paper into the trash can." Kobe.
Kobe.
Thanks for listening, guys.